Maya excused herself from the reception, slipping away to a quiet alcove where she could review the encrypted message properly. The data scrolled across her retinal display. 3 colonists on Proxima Station, officially listed as accidental decompression victims. The attached medical scans told a different story. Precision neural damage consistent with Cyrillian interrogation techniques. Captain. She deactivated the display and turned to find Commander Tarek Nassar, her second in command, approaching with measured steps. To the aliens observing them, he appeared to be a respectful subordinate maintaining proper distance. In reality, the space between them was precisely calculated to allow both officers to reach their concealed weapons if necessary. Our hosts are getting curious about the Tenacity's propulsion system again, Tarek said quietly. The Meridian engineering attaché tried to access the maintenance shafts twice today. Maya nodded. They still think we're using modified Confederation drives. If they saw our actual antimatter containment setup, we have a diplomatic incident on our hands. Tarek's expression remained neutral, but Maya caught the slight crinkle around his eyes. What passed for humor among Earth's military elite? Or they'd realize we're 5 generations ahead of their advanced technology. A soft chime from Maya's neural implant alerted her that the Altarian Chancellor was approaching from behind. She subtly adjusted her stance, a movement imperceptible to the aliens, but that signaled Tarek to resume his diplomatic persona. Captain Chen. The Chancellor's melodic voice carried the translator's slight delay. All 4 of his eyes blinked in their distinctive pattern. What humans had learned indicated condescension, rather than the respect it superficially resembled. I trust you're enjoying our cultural exchange. Your hospitality exceeds expectations, Chancellor. Maya performed the traditional Altarian greeting gesture with practiced precision. The last human diplomat who had executed it incorrectly had been removed from service, officially for protocol violations, but Maya knew it was because the imperfect gesture had revealed human muscle density and reaction time that made the Confederation security forces uncomfortable. I wanted to personally inform you that the Council has reviewed your petition for human settlement rights in the Ta City system. The Chancellor's secondary arms performed an elaborate gesture that Maya recognized as the prelude to disappointing news. Unfortunately, environmental assessments indicate the system would be better utilized by species with more efficient resource management practices. Translation. Humans were too dangerous to be trusted with prime real estate. The 7th petition rejected this year. We understand completely. Maya maintained her diplomatic smile, the same one she perfected during 8 years representing a species deliberately portraying itself as less than it was. Humanity is grateful for the Council's thorough consideration. As the Chancellor moved away to grace other guests with his presence, Maya caught Tarek's microscopic hand signal. Another human diplomat across the room had just been denied access to the trade negotiation floor, the 3rd exclusion this week. Maya's neural implant pinged with an update from Earth Command. Strategic Patience Protocol remains in effect. Continue integration efforts. She acknowledged the order while watching a Vexari military attaché studying her from across the room with too much interest. Their reports about humanity were getting more frequent, more detailed. Earth Command believed they were just being thorough, but Maya sensed something different in their attention. Something predatory. For now, though, she would continue the charade. Continue pretending humanity was just grateful to have a seat at the galactic table, even if it was at the far end. Continue holding back. But for how much longer? Maya strode through the Tenacity's corridors toward the secure communications hub, her measured pace belying the urgency she felt. Crew members pressed themselves against bulkheads as she passed, not out of deference to her rank, but recognizing the cold fury radiating from their captain. Display full casualty reports, she ordered as the comm hub's doors sealed behind her. Lieutenant Araimi's fingers flew across the holographic interface. The Eden II colony had 837 residents. Preliminary data suggests fewer than 20 escaped. The wall displays filled with images of the devastation. Colonial administrative buildings reduced to cinders. Agricultural domes shattered. Medical facilities targeted with precision strikes. The Vexari bypassed Confederation outposts to hit us specifically, Adeyemi noted, and they knew exactly where our shield generators were positioned. Someone gave them intelligence, Maya said, studying the attack patterns. The Confederation Security Council has detailed schematics of all human settlements. For protection purposes, Adeyemi quoted bitterly. Maya zoomed in on footage of Proxima B survivors being evacuated by Confederation forces, their expressions telling a different story than the official narrative scrolling beneath the images. They weren't being rescued. They were being contained. Her neural implant chimed with an incoming secure transmission. The Confederation's High Admiral requesting her presence at an emergency strategy session. Inform the Admiral I'm addressing an urgent matter concerning human colonies, she replied through her comms officer. The Admiral instructed me to remind you that Confederation protocols supersede human administrative concerns, the comms officer reported, discomfort evident in his voice. Maya's gaze hardened. The comms officer, a young ensign from Luna Colony, avoided eye contact. Shall I acknowledge the reminder, Captain? He asked. She approached the main strategic display where three-dimensional renderings of the destroyed colonies rotated. Tell the Admiral I'll join once I've attended to my people. After the comms officer retreated, Maya activated her personal command override, a function unknown to the Confederation observers occasionally permitted aboard the Tenacity. Computer, seal communications hub, and initiate reflection protocol. The lights dimmed momentarily as scanning fields swept the room, detecting and neutralizing any potential surveillance devices. The ship's AI confirmed security a moment later. Lieutenant Adeyemi, contact Dr. Quaim. I want a complete assessment of Vexari weapons signatures compared against our intelligence estimates. Already underway, Captain. Adeyemi hesitated. There's something else. The Confederation relief vessels dispatched to Proxima B. They're not carrying medical supplies. They're scanner ships and containment units. Maya nodded grimly. They're not there to help survivors. They're there to ensure no evidence of advanced human technology is discovered in the wreckage. An alert flashed on her neural interface, a direct message from Admiral Ortiz. Unlike the standard communications channels, this connection used quantum-entangled particles implanted at the base of each senior officer's skull, undetectable by any known Confederation technology. Preliminary analysis suggests Vexari weapon designed specifically for human physiology. Council knew of weapon developments 6 months ago. Recommendation: immediate implementation of Contingency Umbra. Maya's breath caught. Contingency Umbra was the most aggressive of Earth's secret defensive protocols, a full military reveal and preemptive strike against threats to human existence. She composed her response carefully. Request confirmation of Council foreknowledge. Recommend protocol Unchained instead of Umbra. Controlled revelation without preemptive action. The reply came instantly, confirmation attached. Council classified Vexari weapon as regional concern. Protocol decision yours as field commander. Earth stands ready. Maya closed her eyes briefly, the weight of billions of human lives settling on her shoulders. When she opened them, the diplomatic mask she'd worn for years had vanished. Lieutenant Adeyemi, alert all section chiefs. Prepare the Tenacity for combat configuration. Protocol Unchained, Captain. Maya nodded, her voice firm with resolve. It's time the galaxy learned what Deathworlders are truly capable of. Kital stumbled as the Tenacity completed its transformation. Deck plates reconfigured around him, revealing weapon stations that hadn't appeared on any Confederation schematics. The atmospheric composition shifted subtly as the environmental systems optimized for human combat performance, rather than maintaining the compromised settings used to accommodate alien visitors. What is happening? Kital demanded, his translator struggling to convey the complex harmonics of his alarm. This violates 17 separate provisions of the Confederation Technology Disclosure Accords. Maya keyed in the final authorization sequence, causing a previously hidden command center to rise from beneath the bridge floor. Those accords were rendered null the moment the Confederation classified our colonies as acceptable losses. The ship's primary view screen shifted to a tactical display, showing the positions of human assets throughout the sector. Vessels previously registered as freighters, science ships, and passenger liners began transmitting new identification codes. Those are military designations, Catal recognized, his inner eyelids flickering rapidly. How many? In this sector? 27 combat-ready vessels, Maya replied. Throughout Confederation space, 318. The Meridian diplomat staggered backward, as if physically struck. Impossible. Our intelligence services would have detected. Your intelligence services see what we want them to see, interrupted Commander Nassar, as he entered the bridge wearing what appeared to be a second skin of matte black material. This is a phantom suit. Neural-linked combat armor with adaptive camouflage and strength amplification. We've had the technology for 60 years. Catal's skin paled to a lighter blue. The Confederation's most advanced combat systems are barely theoretical prototypes. For you, perhaps. Maya accepted a Neuralink headset from a crew member. For us, their last generation's technology. She activated the ship-wide communication system, her voice now broadcasting to every human aboard. All personnel, this is Captain Chen. Protocol Unchained is in effect. Discard containment procedures. Activate all combat systems. This is not a drill. Throughout the ship, hidden compartments opened. Crew members retrieved weapons and equipment that violated dozens of Confederation prohibitions. In the medical bay, Dr. Zhang activated regeneration tanks that could heal injuries no Confederation species believed survivable. In engineering, reactor shielding retracted to reveal a drive system 3 times more powerful than officially registered. Why? Catal whispered. Why maintain this deception for so long? Maya's expression softened slightly. Because we hoped it would never be necessary. We wanted to be accepted as equals, not feared as threats. Her neural interface pinged with incoming coordination requests from other human ships, commanders awaiting instructions now that the charade had ended. Historian Shijvak claimed humans were genetically predisposed to deception. Catal said, a note of betrayal in his voice. I defended your species in council discussions. It wasn't deception, Catal. It was survival. Maya gestured toward a data feed showing Vexari forces mobilizing near the remnants of Eden II colony. Your own Security Council's assessment classified Earth as a high-risk evolutionary anomaly, requiring containment protocols. We simply responded accordingly. On the tactical display, dozens of new signatures appeared, human outposts throughout the sector shedding their civilian facades. A mining platform near Ta City transformed into a defensive station bristling with weapon emplacements. A cultural exchange center on Proxima Station revealed itself as a fully operational military base. Captain, Lieutenant Adeyemi called. We're receiving distress signals from the Rigelian colony at Barnard Star. Vexari forces are approaching their position. Maya turned to Catal. Your people have 2 options now. Stand with us against the Vexari, or stand aside. Either way, the humans you thought you knew are gone. Catal stared at the tactical display, watching as the true face of human capability revealed itself across the stars. What have we awakened? The council chamber fell silent as Elias finished his presentation. The technological gap he had revealed wasn't merely a matter of degrees. It represented whole paradigms of scientific understanding the Confederation had yet to explore. You've maintained facilities outside our knowledge, the Procyon representative finally said, membranous wings fluttering with agitation. Hidden research installations. No, Elias interrupted. Every advancement I've shown you was developed on Earth, or within our publicly acknowledged colonies. We simply compartmentalized what we shared. He gestured to a Meridian scientist who had collaborated with him for years. Esteemed researcher Voltori, how many times did you request access to human genetic research on radiation adaptation? The Meridian's tendrils curled with embarrassment. 17 formal petitions. And each time, we provided limited data consistent with Level 3 technological development, Elias continued. Meanwhile, our actual genetic engineering capabilities allowed us to do this. He rolled up his sleeve and pressed a dermal activator on his wrist. His skin shifted color, texture, and composition before the council's eyes, transforming to match the metallic blue epidermis of a meridian. Gasps echoed throughout the chamber. Adaptive biomimic technology, Elias explained, returning his skin to human baseline. Developed for exploration of extreme environments, but with obvious other applications. Infiltration technology, hissed the Altarian Chancellor. All 4 eyes narrowed to slits. Maya stepped forward. If infiltration had been our goal, Chancellor, this conversation wouldn't be happening. You would never have known we were anything but what we pretended to be. She nodded to Elias, who activated the next display. A time-lapse of human technological development over the past century compared against Confederation benchmarks. Here's what you're missing, Maya continued. We didn't hide our capabilities because we planned aggression. We hid them because your own historical records showed us what happens to species the Confederation deems threatening. The display shifted to show archival footage of the Draconis containment, when the Confederation had forcibly restricted a rapidly advancing species to their home system, citing evolutionary instability concerns. The Draconis were developing faster than predicted, the Chancellor defended. Their neurological architecture made them prone to aggression. The containment was a peacekeeping measure. They were evolving faster than you were comfortable with, Maya corrected. Just as humans adapted faster than predicted to low-gravity environments. Just as our immune systems neutralized pathogens your medical technology struggled with. Just as our children learned your languages in months while your linguists needed years to master ours. The Rigelian representative, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. If what you claim is true, that humans possess level 9 or 10 technologies, why reveal yourselves now? You could have continued your deception indefinitely. Maya's expression darkened. Because the Vexari left us no choice. They targeted us specifically, and your council knew why. She activated her neural link, projecting classified Confederation Security Council minutes onto the chamber's main display. Discussions from 6 months prior acknowledging Vexari concerns about Deathworld evolutionary advantages and competitive displacement risks. You knew they feared us, Maya said quietly. You knew they were developing weapons to eliminate us, and you classified it as a regional concern while our colonies burned. For the first time, the Chancellor's composure faltered. The assessment indicated localized conflict potential, not genocidal intent. Then your assessment was criminally negligent, Elias replied, his voice cold with controlled anger. And you forced our hand. Humans have masked their potential for generations, hoping to find acceptance through restraint. The Vexari threat ended that possibility. He displayed one final schematic, Earth's orbital defense grid, previously disguised as weather and communication satellites. This is what a species evolved to survive looks like when it stops pretending, Elias concluded. Now you have a choice. Stand with us against the Vexari, or discover what else we've been holding back. Vexinar's command center burned around them, oxygen-fed fires consuming equipment never designed to withstand the heat tolerances of a Deathworld species. Alarms wailed in the distinctive 3-toned warning of Vexari emergency systems. Your colonies were only the beginning, Vexnar wheezed as Maya's grip tightened. The purification cannot be stopped. Maya released the commander, letting him collapse to the deck. Secure him, she ordered 2 of her team. And download everything from the central database. Lieutenant Shen, her infiltration specialist, was already connected to the Vexari systems, his neural implants bypassing security protocols with ease. Captain, I'm accessing deployment orders. 3 more strike fleets are targeting human outposts in the Epsilon Eridani, Ta City, and Sol systems. Sol. Maya's voice sharpened. They're moving against Earth directly. Final stage of their operational plan, Chen confirmed, eyes unfocused as he processed data streams. Designation: Evolutionary Correction Initiative. They've been planning this for decades. Corporal Rivera approached, helmet retracted into her phantom suit's collar. Blood, not all of it Vexeri, spattered her face. The last resistance pocket in the southern quadrant is neutralized, Captain. We've secured their weapons testing facility. Maya nodded. What did you find? Prototype delivery systems for their genetic dissolution weapon, Rivera reported. And Captain, they weren't designed just for space deployment. They had infiltration models. Portable devices that could be smuggled onto planets, stations. Sleeper agents, Maya concluded grimly. How close were they to deployment? Rivera held up a data crystal. According to their research logs, the prototypes passed final testing 3 standard days ago. Full production was scheduled to begin tomorrow. If we'd waited for Confederation approval to act. Maya didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Maya activated her tactical display, assessing the situation throughout the forward base. Human strike teams had secured all primary objectives with minimal casualties. The Vexari, for all their planning against humans, had never actually faced them in direct combat, had never witnessed what happened when Deathworld reflexes, strength, and battlefield adaptability were unleashed without constraint. Captain, Commander Nassar's voice came through her neural link. You need to see this. Maya followed his signal to a secured laboratory 2 levels below the command center. The room was clinically immaculate, a stark contrast to the destruction throughout the rest of the base. Glass containment units lined the walls, each housing what appeared to be suspended biological samples. Nassar stood before the central unit, his expression unreadable behind his tactical visor. They've been collecting genetic samples from every known Deathworld species in the galaxy. Maya approached, examining the preservation chambers. Each contained tissue samples labeled in Vexari scientific notation. Human specimens featured prominently, but there were others, species from high-gravity worlds, from toxic atmospheres, from radiation-bathed planets. It's not just us they wanted to eliminate, Maya realized. It's any species with our evolutionary potential. There's more. Nassar gestured to a sealed chamber at the rear of the laboratory. Their records classify it as xenobiological hybridization experimentation. Maya's authorization overrode the chamber's locks. Inside, suspended in preservation fluid, floated the results of Vexari genetic manipulation. Grotesque combinations of Deathworld species, physiological advantages, engineered into living weapons. They were using our own evolutionary adaptations against us, Dr. Elias Quaim observed, having joined them from the medical team. Creating biological weapons with Deathworld capabilities, but Vexari loyalty programming. Maya stared at the abominations, then at the captured commander being led past the laboratory door. Vexnar met her gaze without remorse. You see now, he called out. Deathworlders cannot be allowed to reach their potential. The strong must preemptively eliminate evolutionary competitors. Maya turned to her communications officer. Transmit everything we found to the Confederation Council. All of it. Let's see if they still consider this a regional concern. The Confederation Council's emergency session stretched into its 30th hour. Maya's broadcast of the Vexari laboratory findings had shattered any possibility of maintaining diplomatic distance from the conflict. Species that had initially called for human containment now watched in horrified silence as Dr. Quaim methodically explained the Vexari hybridization program. The genetic markers extracted from Rigelian high-gravity adaptations were spliced with human musculature profiles, he explained, highlighting specific sections of DNA sequencing on the chamber's displays. The result would be combat units with twice the physical strength of standard Vexari troops, capable of operating in environments that would crush their normal forces. The Rigelian ambassador's exoskeleton clicked in distress. Our physiological data was provided to the Vexari for medical research purposes only, under the Protected Exchange Protocol. As was ours, growled the representative from Captain Star. a methane-breathing species evolved under crushing atmospheric pressure. They extracted our respiratory efficiency genes to create these abominations. The Altarian Chancellor had remained largely silent since the evidence began flowing in. Now he finally spoke, his voice barely audible even through the chamber's amplification system. How long has the Security Council known about this program? A painful silence filled the chamber. According to the Vexeri research logs, Maya answered from her position on the speaker's platform. They've been submitting progress reports to their diplomatic liaison for the past 7 years. That liaison reports directly to the Security Council, the Rigelian ambassador noted, mandibles clacking angrily. On the Tenacity, which maintained orbit around the captured Vexeri base, Lieutenant Adeyemi monitored the council proceedings while coordinating with human forces throughout the sector. Her neural interface continuously processed tactical updates as the full extent of the Vexeri operation became clear. Captain, she transmitted to Maya at the council chamber, we've decoded their attack schedule. 3 more human settlements were targeted for elimination within the next 48 hours. Maya received the information through her neural implant without visibly reacting as the council debated around her. She subtly signaled for a brief communication pause in the proceedings. Inform Earth Command, she subvocalized, the sensitive microimplant in her throat, transmitting her words without audible speech. Request authorization to forward deploy assets to the threatened settlements. Already granted, came Admiral Ortiz's immediate response. The Defiant and Swift Justice battle groups are en route. But there's something else. Maya waited as encrypted data flowed through her neural interface. The Vexeri command codes, decrypted from the captured base, revealed a disturbing pattern. They've been receiving navigational access to restricted Confederation zones, she noted with growing alarm. Including Earth's solar system. Only the Security Council could authorize such access, Admiral Ortiz confirmed. Maya, we've been betrayed at the highest levels. As the council debate resumed around her, Maya studied the chamber with new eyes. The same council members expressing outrage had potentially facilitated the Vexeri plot. But why? What could possibly motivate such a betrayal? Her gaze fell on the Protean ambassador, whose species had been notably silent throughout the proceedings. Unlike most Confederation species, the Proteans had evolved on a world that, while not a death world by human standards, featured significant environmental challenges. Their evolutionary path had similarities to humanity's. And according to the data she just received, their colonies had not been targeted by the Vexeri. Maya caught Commander Nasser's eye across the chamber. He had noticed the same anomaly. With the subtlest of gestures, she instructed him to position their security detail to intercept the Protean delegation when they attempted to leave. The betrayal, it seemed, went far deeper than anyone had imagined. Terrek's strike force vessels accelerated toward the Vexeri flagship, their engines pushed beyond safety parameters. Hull temperatures climbed to levels that would have triggered automatic shutdowns in Confederation ships. Inside, human crews operated through the pain, their death world physiology allowing them to endure conditions that would incapacitate most species. Heat shields failing on decks 4 through 7, reported Lieutenant Park aboard the lead vessel. Inevitable. Environmental controls compensating, but we're looking at ambient temperatures of 52 degrees Celsius. Maintain course, Terrek ordered, sweat rolling down his face, despite his phantom suit's cooling systems working at maximum capacity. Initiate final approach sequence on my mark. On the Tenacity, Maya watched the operation unfold with the Altarian observer beside her. The bridge crew maintained disciplined silence as Terrek's vessels, essentially turned into living missiles, approached the Vexeri defensive perimeter. They can't possibly survive breaching the flagship's shields at that velocity, the Altarian said, his voice barely above a whisper. Maya's expression remained impassive. You still don't understand what it means to evolve on Earth, do you? We don't expect to survive. We expect to succeed. Tarek's voice came through the neural link, calm despite the chaos surrounding him. Breached point identified. 5 seconds to contact. A pause. It's been an honor, Captain. The Inevitable and its sister ships slammed into the Vexeri flagship's shields at a precise vector, their engines detonating in a synchronized sequence. The carefully calculated explosion created a momentary rupture, precisely as Operation Forlorn Hope had been designed to do. Breach confirmed, reported Lieutenant Adayemi, emotion carefully controlled. Shield penetration achieved. Through the gap surged the second wave of the human assault, specialized boarding craft carrying elite strike teams. The kind of operation with a survival probability that Confederation tactical doctrine would consider completely unacceptable. Incoming transmission from the Defiant, Adayemi announced. The view screen showed the interior of another human vessel. The commanding officer's face was streaked with blood from a head wound, but her eyes burned with intensity. Captain Chen. Commander Nasser's sacrifice created a 15-second window. We've deployed insertion teams to 3 target points within the Vexari flagship. What's their status? Maya asked. Unknown. Communications lost after insertion, but preliminary scans indicate they reached their targets before the shields reestablished. The Altarian observer stared at the tactical display in disbelief. You sent teams on a mission with no extraction plan. We sent volunteers, Maya corrected, who understood the mission parameters and the stakes. For the next 28 minutes, the battle appeared to reach a stalemate. The Vexari flagship, temporarily crippled by the human assault, but shields now restored, hung at the center of their defensive formation. The human fleet maintained its aggressive posture despite mounting casualties. Then, inexplicably, the Vexari flagship's shields began to flicker. Energy fluctuations detected throughout their command vessel, Adayemi reported, surprise evident in her voice. Their weapons systems are cycling offline. Nassar, Maya whispered. Internal explosions rippled across the Vexari flagship. Compartment by compartment, system by system, the massive vessel began to fail from within. How? Demanded the Altarian. How could a handful of boarding teams possibly disable a capital ship of that size? As if in answer, a transmission broke through the chaos, distorted but recognizable as Tarek's voice. Tenacity, this is Commander Nassar. Mission accomplished. Superweapon control core destroyed. His breathing was labored, interspersed with coughing. Remainder of strike team proceeding to secondary objectives. Maya leaned forward. Tarek, your status. A pained laugh came through the static. Better than expected, Captain. Only mostly dead. Turns out those experimental regeneration nanites, Dr. Zhang insisted we inject before the mission. They work pretty well. Extraction? Maya asked, hope coloring her voice for the first time since the battle began. Working on it, Tarek replied. We've commandeered a Vexari shuttle bay. If we survive stealing one of their vessels, we might just make it back in one piece, more or less. The sun rose over Kilimanjaro, bathing the observation deck in golden light. Maya watched as the Altarian Chancellor's 4 eyes tracked an eagle soaring on thermal currents high above the savannah. Our xenobiologists told us such creatures would be too energy-intensive to evolve naturally, he admitted. They classified Earth's biodiversity reports as exaggerations. Earth doesn't reward efficiency above all else, Maya replied. It rewards adaptation, the ability to find opportunity in challenge. 6 weeks had passed since the Vexari surrender. The transition to the new Confederation Charter had been surprisingly smooth, facilitated in part by the revelation that 3 members of the former Security Council had indeed collaborated with the Vexari. Their motivation, finally extracted through meridian truth resonance techniques, had been based on mathematical models suggesting that unconstrained Deathworld species would eventually dominate the galaxy through natural competitive advantage. They believed they were preserving the galactic balance, the Chancellor said, referring to the conspirators, preventing an inevitable human hegemony. By facilitating genocide, Maya noted without inflection. The Chancellor's secondary arms performed a gesture of concession, A civilization reveals its true character not through its stated ideals, but through what it will sacrifice to protect those ideals. His gaze shifted to a group of children playing in the distance. We sacrificed our integrity. You sacrificed your comforts, your advancement opportunities, even your pride, all to avoid conflict. The children's game had drawn Maya's attention as well. Human and alien students from the newly established Confederation exchange program were engaged in a modified version of Capture the Flag. The Meridian children, with their natural agility, easily evaded human pursuers, while the young Regelians used their superior strength to defend their position. What caught Maya's eye, however, was how the human children had adapted their strategy, not by trying to match the aliens' natural advantages, but by forming cross-species teams that leveraged everyone's strengths. The irony, Maya said quietly, is that if the Vexeri had simply waited and watched those children grow up, they would have seen the truth. Humanity never wanted to dominate the galaxy. We wanted to enhance it. Her neural implant pinged with an update from the Tenacity, now undergoing a complete refit with publicly shared human technology. Commander Nassar, still recovering from injuries sustained during the flagship infiltration, had forwarded the latest integration protocols for Confederation ships adopting human environmental systems. "There's something I've wondered," the Chancellor said, his voice carrying the distinct harmonics of deep reflection. "When you revealed your true capabilities, you could have demanded retribution for generations of marginalization. Many of your military leaders advocated for it. Why did you choose cooperation instead?" Maya watched as a human girl helped a young Meridian adjust the settings on a modified exoskeleton that compensated for Earth's gravity. "Because the greatest Deathworld adaptation isn't physical strength or technological innovation," she answered. "It's the understanding that true survival isn't about dominating your environment. It's about transforming it into something better for everyone." In the distance, the mixed group of children had abandoned their game and were now collaboratively building a structure from modular components. The human children lifted the heavier pieces, while the Meridians handled the intricate connections, and the Regelians provided the stable base. "Admiral Ortiz said something during our first strategy session after the Vexeri surrender," Maya continued. "She said that humanity's greatest triumph wasn't defeating an enemy that underestimated us. It was maintaining our humanity despite centuries of being treated as less than we are." The Chancellor considered this, all four eyes blinking in the pattern that humans now understood indicated profound realization rather than condescension. "Perhaps," he said finally, "the true measure of an advanced species isn't how they treat those more powerful than themselves, but how they treat those they believe to be weaker."